Sup Shoops, I'm Gravy Fries, and today I figured this would be something everybody would be invested in. We are going to discuss basically the world for Angel of Fire, stuff that I feel won't get much attention. I want to make more comics for, like the other lights and stuff. I specified that before, but I don't think I'll get the chance at the moment. I would love that, I would. Chair is a freaking creaker. But, anyway, let's get to the topic you actually want to hear. So, first of all, for those who noticed that, yes, the world is, well, in the future, but not great. It's definitely run down and much worse off than you'd think it'd be. Well, let's just be honest with ourselves. The future's never going to be that dystopian era we keep seeing. But in my world, we did have a dystopian era. It just didn't last. Now, you're probably wondering what I mean by that. Well, to make a long story short, we had a third war in the Angel of Fire universe. World War III. I have such a hard time saying that. And it took all of the resources, it took everything. The world basically was at a point where there was nothing you could take from Earth, and the only thing that really saved it was Joseph, the recent light at the time. The thing is, it took quite the sacrifice for him to be capable of doing it. Now, something I think you'll find interesting is, most of the characters, like you'll notice, their parents were involved in this war. I'm pretty sure Angie was the only one who didn't have her parents involved at all in this entire situation. I mean, probably because she wasn't born yet, but still you'd think, it'd be involved for Jonah's sake. But no, they're not involved at all. Anyway, you're probably wondering, what exactly did Joseph do? Well, I think I explained it in the, lights, like, the video I had explaining each one of the past lives before Angie. But yeah, he turned himself into a tree. That actually, I'm just gonna say it again in case you haven't seen the video, but yes, he basically used his healing powers as the light to turn himself into the one thing that could heal the entire planet and make it habitable again. He turned himself into a freaking tree. And that caused the growth of Heaven's Oak. Now, I think last I checked, they should be fairly uncommon. Because, yes, okay, he brought the trees back, but now regular trees are growing again. But Heaven's Oaks still are around. They're just in special areas that basically need healing. The trees are heavily used for medical purposes, and the trees know this because, well, they used to be a person. So they tend to stick to areas that actually need that kind of medical treatment. Like areas that are, had fire damage, or maybe they're flooded out. Genuinely areas that need a better environment, they'll stick around there. And again, those are important. Very important. I know, it's stupid that I was talking about a freaking war, now I'm on trees. But no, they actually really are important to the story, especially given the fact that they serve a lot of medical purpose. And yes, they can in fact revive people. You can bring people back from the dead with Heaven's Oak. It is the Lazarus pit of my world. Now, you're probably thinking, well, you said there was a dystopian era, so that was before the war? Yes, that was before the war. Ignore my silly questions voice. But yeah, it was before the war. Everything was perfect. And it was basically like how you'd see in a futuristic movie. They were flying cars, everything was chrome, it was just a great place in general. But they couldn't last forever. And I know people are probably thinking the war started because of, well, divided sides. It actually started because of a loss of a resource. That kind of dystopia could not be held up. It was too much. There was not enough resource, especially with how we treat the world now. That's very important when it comes to the situation. That's what started it. The world was in too bad of a state by the time we got to this point in Angel of Fire, so trying to get these resources out of something that was already broken was not helping at all. And so they started they stammered to try and get some kind of resource, some kind of supply to keep this up for as long as they could. But it was so bad and the world was so messed up, it only lasted for a decade. Now imagine that our world is so broken that a dystopia could only last for a decade because of how bad we are. at being eco-friendly. Now you're probably thinking, did they create any programs to try and resolve this mess? Now, yeah, obviously they did, but a program can only do so much. Essentially, they created a program that was supposed to help find more resources, more food, water, etc. when everything was going downhill. Now, some of these names are going to sound familiar. There was a lot of prototypes. There was Charcoal, there was Rainer, Peekaboo, let's see, there was Millennium, Anthrax, ooh, that was a good one, Mysterio, but the one that finally got through was Doomsday. Now, I really hope people know why those names should sound familiar, but those are Pokegods. I really, really like the Pokegods when I started finding stuff out about them, and I just thought it would be an interesting Easter egg for everybody. But yes, the program that was used is named after one of the Pokegods. And for those who don't know, because this was a long time ago, Pokegods was a rumor essentially made by the Playground back in the old days of Pokemon, when there was only like the first generation. Yeah, we're talking that far, folks. There was no internet, or if there was internet, it was hecka expensive, so only the rich really had a computer at the time. And so all you really had to go on to get information about new Pokemon games was what your friends said. And well, a lot of kids came up with the cool idea for Pokegod, and I figured they're so cool and such an interesting concept, and I really want to discuss the program, but I just wanted to mention that Easter egg. I love Pokegods. I might make I'll make a video if you guys want. I'll have to read up on it again, but yeah, I have the memory of a goldfish, so I had to read up on everything I do. Now, the program itself, basically, all I can really give is it did its job decently well at first, but when it realized how well damaged the Earth was and found out it couldn't really fulfill what it was created for, okay, if you know Rick and Morty, imagine like a Mr. Meeseeks, but not in a sense where it wants to die after it completes the task. It doesn't really know what else to do, but there's a slight problem. It can't die. Or at least, it doesn't think it's capable of dying. The program truly believes that there is no way to really kill it off because they backed it up so much, they've enforced it with so much, it can't even wipe itself from the main system. So, let's say, you know, my Angel of Fire characters did find this program. Despite how damaged old tech is from the dystopian era, from the war, it would still be working. He doesn't know why. He can't fulfill what he was made for. So, and I know what people are going to say, no, it's not in an existential crisis, and no, it's not a suicidal program. It basically just wonders what is there for it. If it's a useless program that they didn't even delete because it couldn't do its purpose, then why is it still there? What is it really truly made for? And it basically had the bright idea that humans are capable of doing much more than a computer simply because they're not bound to a program. They can go outside of regular code. They have emotions. They have, essentially, they can move, for starters. They feel things. They have a heart. They don't calculate everything, and they can't have glitches. And that's his main issue. Despite being the final product, he has so many bugs and glitches wrong with him, and to him, this is just another one. Now, out of everything we've discussed, they're not the most important event in my world's history. No, the most important world was the Flood. The annual Flood. Now, annual means year. I know I'm using the word right. There is an annual flood, and it is the cause for a lot of stuff that happens in the Angel of Fire universe, or like I think I've stated it before, from my 3 planets, Planet Gray. You see, a long time ago, you remember that whole global warming thing? Now imagine that, but worse. See, we had fire creatures, an Angel of Fire creatures, that are literally made of flame. So imagine, if you will, that they are incapable of migrating to certain areas because of the whole situation with the war and loss of resource, and even with Heaven's Oak healing it, there are still areas that are basically bleak and inhabitable at this point. Little patches on the little home we call Earth. Well, they started migrating to areas that were much colder, not realizing the temperature and conditions they were throwing themselves into. Now, you'd think, well, does that mean they died? Oh no! They melted the North and South Pole! They melted the North and South Pole, and it was so bad that it caused a flood. They managed to lock up a lot of that water, well, some of it, and it still ends up overflowing as the area tries to freeze up again. It constantly tries to do this, which doesn't go well. That's actually why the annual flood is constantly happening. Because the North and South Pole are constantly trying to freeze back again, but due to the damage from the creatures such as phoenixes, etc., anything else that's literally made of burning fire, it can't. The temperature will get to a decent amount, the freezing temperature like it used to, we'll get some decent amount of ice, some cold water, definitely tepid, but it'll never, ever go back to the way it was. The heat will drop back in, it'll hit like a ton of bricks, and the water will come flowing. Now, what damage did this cause? I mean, there's tragedy and there's some strangeness. They really didn't know what to do to brace themselves. They knew it was coming, but they didn't know how to stop it. So, everybody had their own plan. The world was split into a lot of weird ways. There were people who took to the trees. They made tree houses. There is a society of people that live in trees now. There's a society of people who supposedly died to the flood, and yet they're still seen with angel wings. That is actually a species called the nobilities. I'll make a video on that later. They're actually not that focused in Angel of Fire. That was another thing I had planned in the future, but the nobilities live to the skies. There's people that went underwater. They live under there now. They decided to just accept their fate as fish people. There's, sane, normal people who made bunkers. And then there's the mud people. I'll explain that to bring the mood back up. But yeah, there were millions that died to that flood. Even with the preparations, they were not ready. To this day, they have extra precautions because of the millions of lives just lost. The thing is, like I said with nobilities, a good amount came back as that race. They're essentially like a type of angel, but you had to be incredibly pure when you were alive. Not all of them were successful, but after that, there are bunkers in every house. It's basically the common thing. It's perfectly normal to have a bunker. Actually, you're considered insane if you don't have a bunker. That, or you want to die. One of those two recommendations. Now, to bring the mood back up, like I said, mud people! Yeah, some people took to living in the frickin' mud! They are another race called the Wu Zin, which are, well, essentially Chinese monks that learn to control the elements. The mud people are just one of, well, multiple groups. They're split up depending on what element they learn. They're very, how do you say, sophisticated? They're certainly more regal than most other, well, races in the entire universe that I've written. They're very important to Angel Fire, so I'd keep that in mind. They just, aside from the mud people, the other ones took to making a giant wall, like Attack on Titan giant wall, like Up to the Moon giant wall. Not that making a giant wall to the moon would be weird, because space travel and people living on other planets in my world is also extremely common now. Because why would you want to live on Earth with all this crap going on, am I right? But basically, yeah, the weather's not great because of this situation. So there's one day a year for some reason where there aren't no clouds, there ain't no rain, it's just sunny. So they celebrate it like a festival. It's the one day they get literally before the flood hits where it's actually sunny and it's like a summer day. Nobody has had summer in a long time, so they appreciate this day a lot. But immediately afterwards they have to go hide in the bunks. It's crazy, really. After all the damage this has caused, the flood only lasts for 30 minutes. 30 minutes can cause a lot of damage. Hey guys, thanks for watching another video of Angel of Fire. I'm going to really push as hard as I can this time. Like I said, Randy comic is still going to be coming. I'm still going to be doing memes, but since, I mean, you know, I'm Christian, so I'm standing on faith that Randy will be coming back. I truly feel very strongly it will. That, I mean, there's not much I really have to do right now except, well, promote my comic and make some memes. And the fandom's already doing 1,000 times better than it originally was. I can tell you that, given I've been in it for a good while at this point. At least about 6 or 7 years. So, I feel that it's okay for me to, you know, try to promote my own work as well with Randy. I do love Randy more than anything, but, you know, my career can't just be Randy. I mean, that'd be nice, but, you know, Angel of Fire's pretty Hawk and Bruce too, you know what I mean? And Space Hotel's Hawk and Bruce too. They're pretty Hawk and Bruce. They'd all be friends. Go to a tea shop, have a good time. But you don't want to hear me babble anymore. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the love and support, and I'll see you shoobs later.